Hey guys, Chris here. I'm a Ukrainian Canadian. Today is January 6th, 2023, and let's get to the news happening in Ukraine, shall we? First news is not that great. The fact is that the situation north of Bakhmut is very difficult for the Ukrainian army. I already reported that in my previous video yesterday that the Russians have taken some sort of control over half of Soledar. So this doesn't put obviously the Ukrainians at a good position. However, they still have some higher ground, as you can see here. The hills are overlooking Soledar on this side of the highway, so they still have a pretty decent position. There's still a lot of forests around, but the Russians still have taken a little part of the hill that's just on the east side of the city of Soledar. So it's not really great news. And again, let's not lie about the fact that the Russians still have an overwhelming advantage on this front with artillery in respect to artillery. Fact is that they've been using 20,000 rounds every single day, and that can have devastating effects, obviously, when you compound this over months and months of pounding that these cities have been taking for the last few months. So, at a point, I wouldn't understand if this area is completely destroyed. There's nothing left to protect and defend, right? So the Ukrainians are doing everything possible to really defend this area. As you can see here, there's some hills that are overlooking part of the city, so they have taken control over that part. And there's also salt mines around in this area. So from rumors that I've heard is that Prigozhin made a deal with Putin that he would get some sort of control over these mines that are located around Bakhmutske, between Bakhmutske and Soledar, which, makes sense why he's trying to push as much as possible here. And again, it shows what the Russians came here to do, and it is to rape the land as much as they can to bring back all the goods to Russia. The intention has never been to make the life of Ukrainian people better, to liberate them. It's just been about taking advantage of people, which is what the Russian doctrine has always been, is taking advantage of their own people as well. They even accept being taken advantage of by their own government. So how can you expect them to follow the rules in a war? And the fact is that today is what, January 6th? Wasn't there supposed to be a truce, an armistice going on? Well, you see how that went. So the Russians are doing everything possible to take north of Bakhmut. Does this put the Ukrainian positions at a catastrophic position? Obviously not. But you can see that the Russians have had some success here by taking Yakovlivka, taking parts of Soledar. I think they're really betting now their concentration of troops here. They see that they have zero success towards Bakhmut like this. And also the same goes in the south of Bakhmut. They've gotten some sort of gains here, but you can see what the trend is that where there are hills and very high ground, they usually have more trouble taking it. Obviously, it's not the case everywhere, but I think that the Ukrainians here have probably some positions in here as well, so they can overlook what is happening as well. So it's not going to be easy for them to take any of this, but it doesn't put obviously the Ukrainians at a good position. So I'll keep you updated the next few days what's going to happen here. But the good news is that the Ukrainians got officially $3.8 billion from the United States today for a security assistance package. Yesterday, I reported that the Bradleys are coming, the Martyrs are coming, the German Martyrs, IFVs. So this is basically more of a concrete list of what the US is going to be giving Ukraine. So you can see here that there's going to be 100 M113 APCs, 55 mine-resistant ambush vehicles, 138 high mobility Humvees, essentially 18 155 millimeter howitzers, which Ukraine dearly needs, especially on the Eastern Front, and 18 ammunition support vehicles, 70,000 155 millimeter artillery rounds. So sorry for that. 70,000, if you guys remember in July, is the amount that the Russians used in one day in Severodonetsk or on the Eastern Front. And that, is what the Ukrainians are, trying to ration at least, for a couple weeks, which is not easy. But obviously, the United States help is super great. It's just that you can see how crazy the Russian artillery is that back in the summer they were able to use up that amount of shells per day, not per week but per day. 500 precision guided 155 millimeter rounds. That's great as well. So more precise rounds. That's going to be hitting the Russians directly, which is great. 1200 155 millimeter rounds of remote anti-armor mine systems. Not really sure what that is. But you can see that there's a lot of rounds, 120 millimeter mortar rounds, 10,000 of them, and approximately 2,000 anti-armor rockets. And that also comes with the new Bradleys that are coming to Ukraine, about a few dozen of them, which are going to be great for good fire support for infantry and also bring infantry to the front lines for counteroffensive. They're going to be great. I love the Bradleys, especially because we've all seen how they performed in Afghanistan and Iraq in the Middle East. They are great pieces of equipment. Last thing I wanted to mention is that Europe is also, there's a lot of rumors today that Europe is sort of like, getting closer to the idea of bringing Leopards, the Leopard 2 to Ukraine. Now there's a lot of rumors that Poland is saying that, oh, if Germany proves it or something like that, like if we're the first ones to give it, then Germany is not against giving some to Ukraine, right? So I think it all comes down to who is going to be the first that's going to decide to give them to Ukraine. And then I think everybody's going to follow through. So Ukraine is definitely getting these Leopard 2s. I have no doubt about it. Just a matter of time. And I think that the Leopard 2s are going to be the sort of last blow for the Russian army. They're so great and they're going to make a huge difference on the front lines. Much more modern tanks that, are very super modern and easy to use, like a laptop, right? It's like you're using a typewriter right now for the Ukrainian tanks. The T-72s, now you're upgraded to a brand new laptop, right? Everything is screened. You have screens, thermal imaging, very smart sensors on these tanks. So they're going to be massive game-changing tanks for a counteroffensive in the upcoming months. I truly believe it. Of course, you need training as well for these. Last thing is Medvedev. Now, guys, remember, Medvedev was a Russian ex-president. Yes, was he Putin's puppet back in 2008 to 2012? Yes, there's no doubt about it. But he was a president, and he should behave like one. But he behaves truly like a kid, like a little child. And Twitter, I should say Telegram, is like his little Twitter, constantly writing, just disgusting comments. And today, he really, outdone himself, I should say. So Medvedev called Ukrainians ungrateful for rejecting Putin's Christmas truce. There was no truce in the beginning. The Russians are now shelling Ukraine for the whole day. It was just a little show for him to show how bad the Ukrainians are and how good and merciful the Russians are to give the Ukrainians 2 days to, enjoy Christmas. But it's all bullcrap. So, Medvedev wrote that the hand of Christian mercy was extended to the Ukrainians on a great holiday. Their leaders rejected it. I think most of our servicemen participating in the special military operation, they still don't call it a war. 11 months later, how it's a clown. They're clowns. The Russians are just clowns that they believe and they're so scared to call it a war. Breathed a sigh, and you know why they don't want to call it a war is because it would be diminishing. The Russians see diminishing that they will call it a war between the Ukrainians, right? That they can't somehow take Ukraine. Now it's almost we're getting close to a year now. It's almost 11 months in, and they still are have trouble taking little parts of Bakhmut and little parts of Soledar. So for them, it's kind of diminishing how powerful the Russian people are. So they don't want to call it a war. They're still trying to lie to themselves that this is some sort of special military operation, when you know that this is a full-scale war with hundreds of thousands now of Russian soldiers died, and everybody's pretending like nothing happened, right? Well, we don't know anything about it, or they're trying to diminish the scale of the losses, which is, pathetic. Anyways, all that to say that he said, according to Medvedev, he feels sorry for those people who apparently won't be able to go to church because of Ukraine's refusal. For this refusal, Medvedev called Ukrainian pigs, who have no faith and an innate sense of gratitude. Without restraining himself, the deputy head of the Security Council of the Russian Federation said that Ukrainians understand only brute force. So then he had started to insult European politicians who did not appreciate Putin's proposal. Anyways, you know how the deal goes, and that kind of shows you that there's it's a virus that exists in Russia, and they just the hatred just runs deep. Medvedev is supposed to behave himself like an ex-president, no matter if you're a puppet or not. You should, behave like a true leader. And unfortunately, they don't. You can see he represents really the feelings that every Russian people right now has, that is pro-war, at least, that they hate Ukraine to the bits, right? That they don't want them to win, and they're so petty about it. So that's that. So that's it, guys. I just want to make a quick update about the front lines, the aid package that Ukraine got, which is great. Thank you to the United States and Germany as well. And I'm very certain that the Leopard 2s are coming. Let me know about that. What do you think about that in the comments? And that's it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.